Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome, welcome,
Hi.
welcome. As people join in the chat here, very excited to have you today. We are about to embark on the seventh live stream, bi-weekly live stream here on the Polycam YouTube channel. Um, and today we are lucky enough to be joined by Kitae of Foveate, who's going to show us the new and newly released, very exciting announcement, SketchUp Extension. So this is the first ever Polycam integration with a third-party software, a software that's used by so many of our community members and our users. Um, but for those who haven't been here before, we're going to go around and just do a couple of short introductions. There's a lot in store today. We're going to start with some intros, and then we'll go into a discussion about like what is a digital twin, how what is Polycam in the context of architecture. We'll check out some Polycam stuff, go into a live demo of Polycam, taking a Polycam scan into SketchUp with the new extension. Kitae will share some pro tips. We'll have a bit of a Q&A, and then we'll wrap up here today. So for those who have tuned in before, we have some familiar faces here. I'm Ellie. I do community and brand at Polycam, and I'm joined by my colleagues here. Feel free to take it away.
Well, we lost Margaret. I'm Craig. I'm an artist in residence at Polycam. I make videos. I do some sort of, I give a kind of a creator's perspective on some projects. And yeah, I'm just a photogrammetry enthusiast. And Kitae, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Kitae Kim. I'm the co-founder of Foveate. Foveate's a pitching and presentation app for architects and designers. But prior to that, I was trained in architecture. I worked on lots of installations, many of which we hoped we had Polycam back in the day to do 3D scanning, but I'm very familiar with photogrammetry. First with Autodesk, 123D Make, and then yeah, really awesome to be working with the Polycam team. We helped co-develop this extension connecting SketchUp and Polycam, and we're really excited to see how now anyone can 3D scan using Polycam's super easy tools, not making it like a exclusive, very difficult technical process anymore, but rather turning it into something that people across AEC can use, whether you're a smaller architect, interior designer, perhaps somebody in insurance who needs to have accurate to-scale measurements of the space, and then be able to use that in future designs, plans, what have you. Oh, and Margaret is back.
Hi, hey. Yeah, I was doing it for dramatic effect. Somebody told me there's been a Google problem today and my Chrome crashed. So I think I was the first victim. But I'm back. I guess the mic has been passed to me. I work here at Polycam and I do a bunch of brand and creative stuff with Ellie and Craig. I guess personally have a little bit of a history of using Polycam is a product that I started using in grad school alongside a lot of my architecture student friends. I was not in architecture, I was in digital media, but it's just really cool to be here and now see the product being used in a professional setting as well. And that's me. And sometimes my internet cuts out. So
It happens to all of us.
Craig, did you go while I was gone? I know I feel like I was in a little time vacuum. Okay, we're all covered.
Yeah.
Cool.
We're all good.
Thank you, everyone, for those introductions. Yeah, we have about 13 people tuned in this live session. If you are tuning in live, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. We're so excited to share this SketchUp integration with y'all. If you use SketchUp, if you use Polycam, drop a comment in the chat. We want to hear from you throughout this live session. Yeah, so thank you all for tuning in. Maybe now's a good time to explore like what a digital twin is, what a photogrammetry capture is. Shall we jump into that?
Yeah, sounds good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I wanted to just say to the folks in the chat that if you are SketchUp users, feel free to comment what kind of SketchUp user you are. If you're an architect, interior designer, surveyor, GC, we would love to hear from you and hear what kind of work that you do.
And SketchUp can be used for 3D printing as well, right?
Yep. SketchUp is, in case anybody doesn't know here and for our viewers, pretty much the most popular architecture and CAD application. So it's used by so many different types of people for all these different use cases, from um, actually building buildings, homes, residences, 3D printing objects, designing furniture, cabinetry, interior design, surveying for infrastructure, stuff like that. So it's a very flexible application, super easy to learn. And we worked with SketchUp last year with Foveate, and then once we were connected with you guys, it just kind of made sense to us that, of course, Polycam and SketchUp would go hand in hand. The two, I would say, core values of both the companies is democratizing access, right? So with SketchUp, they really were able to make editing 3D models and building buildings or other designs super easy. And Polycam's doing the same with scanning for spaces and objects. So super cool collaboration between you guys. And to just jump into, what is a digital twin for our audience? If you haven't heard this term before, basically a digital twin is a virtual replica of a real life space or object or thing. So it's a way that basically, in the context of 3D scanning and Polycam, users can 3D scan something very accurately, whether that's through space scanning, which gives you very accurate dimensions of an existing place in a clean kind of white 3D model that you can edit and place things in a kind of more architectural fashion. And then there's photogrammetry, which is reconstructing a 3D model from a series of photographs that can create a very accurate digital reconstruction of that place. So instead of representing, let's say, a bed with some simple white boxes and a surface, a photogrammetry would actually be capturing the detail and kind of mesh geometry of that bed itself, giving you a really accurate look into the quality of the materials. For example, the state of concrete, if you're scanning, let's say, a building or a piece of infrastructure, or the actual form of it. So let's say for a more custom thing on site, like some pipes that are underground that you've dug up, you want that 3D thing captured so you can inspect it later and view exactly what it looks like.
So a digital twin could be used to monitor situations on the construction site and possibly detect, structural issues or things like that.
Exactly. So the best way to think about how people, or one of the best ways for the use cases, how people might use Polycam, let's say on a job site, is connecting the people on site with the people who are back at the office. So for example, you might have some workers on site who can 3D scan now a pile of gravel that's outside of a new home or building that's being constructed. They can take that scan, capture that with Polycam. It's automatically uploaded to the cloud. And then someone in the back office using SketchUp can now use the SketchUp Polycam extension to go download that model, view it in SketchUp, be able to understand how large it is, the volume of the amount of gravel, and then be able to calculate, oh, this is how much materials we have to fill this area for the walkway that's leading up to the house. So that's just one small example of how they can use it.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned interior design and cabinetry, and I could imagine like a blank canvas being like a kitchen without cabinets being captured and someone designing using that digital twin as well.
Exactly. So instead of measuring everything by hand, architects, you guys don't have to do that anymore. Now you can just go capture with your phone, get an accurate model of that kitchen without the cabinets, then take that into SketchUp, design all your cabinetry, take some renders for your client, send that off, and win the gig.
Mm-hmm. A couple weekends ago, I was installing some baseboards in the utility room of my parents' house. And instead of going around and measuring each wall and each section, I just did that all in Polycam and then totaled up the amount of lumber I was going to need to buy. It was was really nice. And then, yeah, it worked out great.
Yeah, fantastic use case. That's probably about 10 times faster than if you had done that all by hand, right? So it's really just a stellar improvement in how efficient we can be when building real life things.
Absolutely. I just moved into this art studio as a workspace and scanned the space to get the measurements. I'm thinking about building out some custom shelves. And I'm also imagining how much effort it would be to measure a space like that's 10 times the size of this, and how easy it is to do it with Polycam. So that's really great. And like what was mentioned, there's lots of different types of scans offered in Polycam that can be brought into SketchUp. We have LiDAR captures, we have photogrammetry captures, we have Gaussian splats, we have 3D floor plan, and all of these different capture types serve a different purpose and can inform the business project in a different way. So like a LiDAR scan, for example, is going to contain a lot more. It's going to contain texture information, which could be useful if you're thinking about lighting in a space, if you are doing some kind of surveillance in a space, looking for like cracks, like structural weaknesses, inspecting a space. And then a 3D floor plan obviously is the most useful for getting straight to the point measurements. Yeah, so there's a lot on the Polycam side, of course, but we are here to discuss the SketchUp integration in particular. I was just doing a little bit of research and discovered that the Guggenheim, the Disney Concert Hall, the Sydney Opera House, and Frank Lloyd Wright, some of his most famous buildings were all imagined in SketchUp. So super, super cool. That, yeah, right? I'll drop the link actually in the chat. So
yeah,
this is a huge leap forward for Polycam.
I gotta talk
now that you bring up
Guggenheim.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I find it really hard to be in the Guggenheim. It makes me, I get like motion sickness when I'm in there because it's like circular and stuff. And yeah, anyways, that's besides the point. But if anybody knows the guy.
I mean, as you mentioned, these historic buildings, I think that's another. It's not necessarily a utilitarian use case of Polycam, but just for posterity, it is nice to have 3D scans of historic or for historical preservation, and even on a personal level, like I have some old apartments and things that I kind of wish I had scans of, and
yeah.
One
note about the Guggenheim is the Guggenheim, because it's all curved, the floor actually slopes everywhere in not just one way like a ramp, but actually in two directions. So my experience in the fine art world, I used to design all these installations, right? And of course, custom pedestals and stuff like that was one of them. And it was always such a nightmare for the Guggenheim because the floor's not flat. So you want to design a pedestal to hold the sculpture. The bottom of the pedestal has to be exactly the shape of the floor, like in that particular place. So you can't really move it around because it's basically carved to that custom shape. So a great use of Polycam,
totally, yeah,
or a place like that would just be scanning that patch of floor, and then now you can 3D print basically a base or CNC route a base that fits exactly that patch of floor, and you're going to know that it's going to stand up perfectly straight. So that's just one small use case of how you can do scan to builds really easily with Polycam and SketchUp.
So cool.
That's amazing. And that would probably be a photogrammetry use case, correct?
Yeah, that would probably be photogrammetry, so you can get the geometry in higher fidelity.
Well, I don't envy the person that has to make all those pedestals, but they're probably quite good at it now.
Yeah, and they have a client forever.
Yeah, that's right.
That's like the scientific reason why Margaret gets motion sickness in the Guggenheim. No,
I think so. I really do. I really do.
Double slope.
All right, should we get into some screen sharing of the extension?
Sure, happy to.
Let's do it.
All right, folks. So here we have SketchUp 2025 open. And just a note for our viewers, SketchUp 2024 and up work the best with this extension. You won't really be able to use this with previous versions of SketchUp. So if you haven't upgraded, please do. The new version looks a lot better with ambient occlusion, and it runs a lot faster. So especially if you have big projects, this will help speed up your workflow quite a bit. So here we have our SketchUp scene. And for those of you who don't use extensions, you have this handy little tab here. So you can go to the extension warehouse, and the Polycam extension is actually available right here on the front page. So just go ahead and install that. I'm not going to click this button because I already have it installed. But with the newer versions of SketchUp 2024 and up, you no longer have to manually install the plugin and place that inside the correct folder and what have you. As soon as you click this button, it'll automatically be added and open to SketchUp.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's really, really handy, much faster. So here I have the icon here. If you need to add the Polycam extension, just right click on your toolbar and you can click Polycam extension and it will pop up right here, docked here. So you can use this every day. So we'll go ahead and launch this. And that will open the Polycam window here. If you haven't logged in, you're going to be prompted to log in, and a Polycam account is required to be able to use this plugin. But as soon as you do that, then you can access all sorts of different scans here. So I've gone ahead and created a little library that has all sorts of different scans, both space scans, photogrammetry scans, and of all different scales too. So these are all a little bit more AEC focused, but can go ahead and maybe talk about the difference here and how this works. But alluding to what Ellie said earlier, a LiDAR scan is going to be one of these texture scans, and the LiDAR scans that you do with your phone requires an iPhone or iPad Pro, and basically it'll use the laser sensor, the LiDAR sensor on your device to go get an accurate ping of a point in space. So we're going to take this model here, click import, and then the extension will automatically just take this asset from the cloud and then pop it right into your scene. So we'll see here in a sec.
Wow.
Yeah, here we go. So
That was fast.
So cool.
very easy. And if someone's scanning on site and somebody else is in SketchUp and they need to see this model, it's going to take them basically as long as it takes to scan and for that model to process, which is like, I don't know, 30 seconds, and appear on the cloud, and someone in the back office can go ahead and see this in the extension and download it right into SketchUp. So you could be on a phone call with somebody on site and be able to communicate about the scans pretty much instantly. Oh, I see we have a question here. What is AEC? AEC stands for Architecture, Engineering, and Construction. So AEC basically covers these sort of spatial careers that architects, engineers, construction, people who build the buildings and structures, infrastructure in our life. That's basically is the catch-all term for that group of people. But here we have our LiDAR scan, and SketchUp has a kind of a different way of rendering things. So styles is where you'll be able to edit the look and feel of your scans. So the LiDAR scan comes in fully textured like so. So actually what we want to do is go ahead and turn off things like profiles to get rid of those mesh lines. And then we can go ahead and add a section plane here. This is going to allow us to cut into our model and then see it from a bird's eye view. So we'll go ahead and add that. And then we can click the section plane, press M to move. We'll pick a point to move from, and then you can use the arrow key down or up so you can constrain which direction it's moving in.
Oh man, that's really cool.
And quick tip for people on the call, if you press spacebar, that will exit you out of the current tool that you're using and then bring you back to the cursor mode so that you can freely navigate your model. So now we can select everything here, and let's just move everything up a little bit. And this way we can reveal, I forget this guy's name, is it Ben? But he's one of the classic scale figures in SketchUp. And as you can see, everything is to scale here. So we'll go ahead and move him down here.
Thank you for your service, Ben. He sort of is. He's given a little Sherlock Holmes vibe, I feel like.
Yeah, I like the bowler hat and the vest here. Here, now we have him. We can tell that this is pretty much exactly the scale here. So you can see how this would just totally speed up our workflow working on a building like this. And we can get a pretty good idea of the size of furniture in here, what the space looks like. So that's going to be useful for, let's say, you're rendering something for a client, or you need to basically use this as evidence or a capture of a certain state of being of the property. So that can be super useful.
I could imagine an interior designer looking at some of the existing wood floors or carpet that they're using and creating some ideas based off of a capture like this.
Yeah, totally. And your interior designer might live in a different state, and they need to understand in the proportions of your house, how certain furniture would fit inside of it. So here's a kind of silly example, but let's take this plant and import this. So the Polycam extension, you can just keep on importing any of these assets. So let's say this interior designer knows that you're obsessed with plants and they want to put this little leaf fig inside of your kitchen or something like that. Then they can go ahead and import this. And a lot of interior designers, I know many of you like to reuse the same assets again and again. So this is a very simple way that you could go ahead and capture things that are in your catalog, whether you're a smaller interior designer or maybe you're working for a larger firm and you have all your products. Then you can just take those and then be able to use those right inside of SketchUp. So, I think this probably came in below or something.
Might be under the floor, yeah.
And with this LiDAR scan, we have, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of information, like texture, shader information. So we can make sure that that fig is set up in the right spot to thrive in the space. Taking into account where the windows are and how there the fig is.
It's a little cutie, yeah.
Okay. So this is a photogrammetry model, I think, and so those within Polycam, they don't capture accuracy in the scale, correct?
They usually do, actually, with photogrammetry to some extent. I think it just depends how they took it. You might need to make a reference point, you're right, for larger scans. But if they did this one with the LiDAR photogrammetry, then I think it should come in okay.
And in the Polycam app, you can also see, we could probably find out the capture method if we had a link to that capture, which is cool as well.
Yeah, another thing to note is with Polycam, you guys also have this great feature where you can edit models after you capture them to crop out information that you don't need. So that is actually pretty unique compared to some of the other capture tools where you have to go, bring that now into MeshLab or a whole nother application just meant for editing. So this could speed up a lot of people's workflows by just having the capture be edited before you even get to SketchUp, right?
And you can also remesh your captures as well and add more detail. It's a awesome, I would argue, even underutilized part of Polycam is being able to edit captures, and then within, if you're using scenes, for example, your captures will automatically reload. So if you've edited them, if you've cut out, if you turned a piano into half a piano, it would reflect in your scene. We had a live stream a few weeks ago where we turned a Abercrombie and Fitch dress into a half dress, and that ended up updating in the scene. We're basically building a crazy scene for fun. But
yeah,
I feel like we're constantly trying to show people the true full power of Polycam. It's especially even with just editing the models inside the platform itself. It's so cool.
Totally. There's a lot of editing tools in Polycam directly, Remesh, as you mentioned, which is awesome for making a capture even more lightweight. And then recently there's a color slider. So if the capture is really underexposed, you can increase the color values of the capture itself to maybe better match your space capture, which is very cool. That was recently released last week, I think.
I believe, yeah, this week or last.
So and then the cropping tool, you could crop in and crop out, and that's really great just to clean up before you bring into a third party service. Though I'm sure you can do all of those same things in SketchUp, but it just depends on your workflow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and another thing to note is with this extension and with Polycam, you can take a scan of a space. So I have this photogrammetry model that you guys are seeing here in SketchUp that we just imported. But in Polycam, you can also turn on these layers. So if you go to this layers button, you can turn off LiDAR and get the space mode plan.
Wow.
So this is what you architects and interior designers can use to get kind of cleaner models that you can work with in SketchUp super easily. So now that I have this on, I can actually go back to my SketchUp extension here. And if I re-import this model, it should take the layer from that space plan and then
Wow.
inside of there. So we can go ahead and move this guy up to match the other movement, that we did previously. So what I can do now is I'll just delete this section tool and we can move this guy.
It's funny. I'm like, I know I work here, but every time I'm like, wow, cool. Like, this app is awesome.
And then we'll go ahead and take this guy.
That's so cool.
As you can see, yeah, it's very good.
Yeah, it's
Very
1-for-1.
1-for-1 ratio.
Mm-hmm.
So here we can see now we have this space plan model here, and this is accurate to, I think it's about 2 inches. So, honestly, very good for most use cases. You don't need that sub-millimeter precision unless you guys are doing like the craziest engineering, but this should fit most people's needs. And then we can go ahead in here, and then in SketchUp, start editing these individual components here. So if I wanted to, go ahead and move this wall here. Oops, let me switch to the move tool. Then I could go ahead and start, moving things around.
Is there an outliner within SketchUp where it's showing the different pieces of this model?
Yeah, so we could go to, these are all untagged. So that's one way. If there are tags in your model, you can break them apart, but also components. So components are like a little bit more procedural. So you might have like nested things, and this way you can instance. But it's not, the outliner is not the same as like Photoshop or something like that, where there's distinct layers. So that's a bit of a caveat here.
Are the tags like the comments from there's a commenting feature on Polycam where you can select a section of the model and then make a comment. Are the tags you're referring to in SketchUp different, or is that the same?
Yeah, they're unfortunately different. So SketchUp kind of has their own ways of naming a bunch of different things. So tags is like probably more similar to layers than what you guys are describing in Polycam, which would be like, this tag is engineering, this tag is architecture, this tag is plants, and then you can like filter them. Like it doesn't work the same way.
Oh no, I'm referring to like team sharing comments. Like when there's a shared capture in an album, users on that team are able to go in and select a portion of the model and then add a comment like, "Ooh, let's focus on this section," or "This is where the cabinet will start," for example.
Yeah.
But okay, so what is the usefulness of tags in SketchUp?
Yeah, so tags in SketchUp are really more like layers than annotations for what you're describing. So I would say that's the difference. Is same name but different use case. SketchUp is more geared towards kind of like a layering system when they say tags.
Can we tag like the 3D model as a specific layer, and then the LiDAR capture is a different layer?
So we could take let's say this, and then we could change it to tag here. So this should now tag this guy. Hold on, tag tool, bam. Oop. Oh, this model might be locked here.
This is like my easy way of learning SketchUp. I have like a Blender background, and I'm
Oh, there we go.
learning through this stream.
Yeah, so we could just go here and use the tag tool to now color this one. So this is the space mode model. So
Nice.
that's kind of like, yeah, it's layer, I guess. And now color with this. So we can go ahead and change this to something else. Let's say, yeah, like this kind of burnt sienna. So now we can very clearly, if we were to put these models on top of one another, be able to distinguish which one's the space mode model and then which one's the textured model. And then we can go back into scenes or styles. We can always go back to the style we had previously if we want to change this to our older look.
Nice. And is it possible to like remove or hide specific walls in the 3D model, the 3D floor plan?
Yeah, so you can go ahead and go in here and we just explode this. And then we can always explode this again. Then we can always go ahead and take this wall, for example, and just delete it if we want. We're gonna demo this wall. This room's getting way bigger.
Yeah.
So exploding is just extracting all the geometry and separating it.
Yeah, exactly. So that's like kind of an easy way that you can be able to edit the model.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll just go here. If we wanted to like move this over here, then we'd have to go in and like rebuild some of this.
Wow.
So if we wanted to,
This is awesome. So all the pieces and parts of this model are editable, toggleable, like manipulatable to build and change the 3D floor plan based on the builder's needs.
yeah, exactly.
Right? It's not just all one piece.
You also could, in theory, then go and export your adjusted model from SketchUp and upload it back into Polycam, which would be pretty cool. Just and Polycam just makes web-based sharing so easy. And then at that point, you could add the annotations as well. So I kind of see like a use case, sort of before and after use case where you are hosting the actual redesign on Polycam, where you can add the annotations and like do all that collaborative work, which is super cool. Super cool.
Yeah,
Totally.
definitely. I just want to show another use case here. So I'll just delete all this. Right, I'll delete everything, maybe but our friend here. And then just restrict it to small scans of spaces. If we're using like a drone or something like that, we could capture an entire intersection. So we'll go ahead and we'll import this house in this intersection here. So, bam, look at that. I mean, that's crazy.
Wow.
Quickly. You can always drag and drop more models onto here. So for folks who have other designs maybe coming from Rhino or something like that need to be placed into SketchUp, you can go ahead and do that super easily. So we'll just take this model. As you can see, the scale's all wrong because the drone just came in, created a photogrammetry model, and it has no sense of scale, right? So we can go and click this and then just use these scale tools here to be able to resize this to be much bigger.
How good are you at estimating the size of a city compared to a man?
Well,
you could find a car in there and look up
True.
the length of the car. Or
Yeah.
The trick that I usually like to do is just use a doorway because the traditional door width is about 3 feet, 30 inches. So it's a super easy way that you can just go ahead and kind of like be able to edit that.
But this is a 3D kind of newbie question, but do other programs also have this like scale reference model? Because it seems like such a no-brainer. Because having worked with Blender and Unity, I don't think that there's like a
No, they actually don't.
Pre-uploaded,
So SketchUp actually is really friendly to users in that way, where they're just like, wait a minute, why isn't it easy just to tell how big something is, right?
Yeah.
So that's another boon to using SketchUp. So this is like,
Yeah, wow, you did that so fast.
thanks. You can always click this button here to rotate your model. Let's get this little fun protractor. So we need to do a little adjustment here.
Like it's starting to look like the Guggenheim in there.
We're
So
taking
this is
this bolo
Yes.
hat man on an adventure.
He's gone everywhere. He's our man. We'll just go here, go back into our style, and then we can go ahead and edit this, turn on profiles. I mean, look how much better this looks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Amazing.
SketchUp, if you want to go ahead and like be able to kind of walk someone through your model, for example, we could start out here. Let's say you need to explain this site to your principal or your PM who's not super familiar with the project yet. We've just taken a scan of the site. We're renovating this church or like town building. We'll go ahead and create a new scene here. Scenes are like the camera positions in SketchUp. And then we can go ahead, show maybe like the front of the building, make that scene, and then show, and then show the entryway where we want to make some sort of renovation. Now we've created these 3 scenes, and we can create this basically little animated story.
Oh wow.
That's awesome.
Walking
Wow.
through space.
Nice.
It's so user friendly. It's crazy.
I mean, I could see this particular capture being ripe for a city planner to look at it and say, there's tons of streets here, there's tons of parking lots going on. I don't know how many crosswalks there are happening, but we need some more trees. We need some renovations here. And they could be doing that here in SketchUp.
Yeah, for sure. And here's like another handy trick in the extension is you can also import multiple scans at once. So we could click, let's say, this AC unit, this pallet of concrete, and what would be another fun one? Maybe, how about this this pipe here? And then we can go ahead and import all these things. So they all now pop in at once.
So Kitae, I wanted to ask
This
you,
rocks.
you had been on the browser creating an album of these captures before, right? And this extension is connected to that particular album.
That's right. My account and the album that I put these assets in. Yeah.
Okay. So if I'm looking at Explore and I see some assets that I want to use and bring into SketchUp, I'll need to add those to an album first.
You don't have to. If you're not logged in, I believe it'll just show all the assets that are in your like homepage.
Explore. Yeah.
Yeah. But you can always go here to the filters and then be able to look at other types of assets. So you can see here I'm in under team content, I'm in Ferris Team 2. So this is why it's only showing these assets. But I would recommend generally having folders and then organize them either by project. So, only scans related to, let's say, 76 Mercer Street, where your project's located. Or if you're more like, let's say, an interior designer or something like that, organizing them by typology. So let's say you want all the cabinets in one folder, you want all the plans in another folder. That makes it super easy to be able to go into each one and then kind of make sure that everybody has access to all the scans and assets, and that it's very clear how they're organized. So you're not scrolling through one giant list all the time.
And if I have a SketchUp file, a project file that incorporates Polycam captures, and I need to share that SketchUp project with someone, will those assets go along with the project?
Great question. They sure will. So you can either save this now as your .skp file and send that to someone, and all the scans with their textures and information will be inside of that skip file that somebody else can open in SketchUp. Or if you want to make it a little bit more interoperable with other applications, you can go ahead and export your whole scene as, say, a .glb. So for those SketchUp users who are not aware, .glb is a new type of 3D file format that is meant for sharing everywhere. So almost every single CAD and 3D app, like Rhino, Blender, 3ds Max, Revit, they should all support .glb, I think, now. So you can basically open this anywhere, even share it on the web, and it's very small. It's supposed to be kind of like the JPEG of 3D files.
Super cool. That's amazing. Yeah, you could re-upload it to Polycam as well.
Oh yeah, another great point.
And correct me if I'm wrong, y'all, but I think that is the free export file type on Polycam, just the free tier.
Yeah,
is it
that's
GLB?
right.
That's right.
Did somebody
Are
already
these-
say that? I'm sorry.
Are these files coming in as GLBs?
They are. So this extension is actually using the GLB importer. So if we were to go here, we could import the .glb, and it's just a great, modern file format that allows us to import these really high fidelity scans in here and not crash SketchUp. So everybody who has been using Polycam, keep using GLB. You can use a free account and still be able to use this plugin. And then once you have enough scans or you want more functionality, then you can start paying for the plugin, or paying for Polycam rather, and be able to have a lot more kind of power user features. But
Is there a Gaussian splat plugin for SketchUp?
So for SketchUp, it does not support Gaussian splats yet, outside of the V-Ray plugin for SketchUp. So for those of you listening who are on the SketchUp Studio plan, or the highest plan, it comes with V-Ray, which I believe is now V-Ray 7. So you'll be able to use Gaussian splats within that for rendering.
We were just talking about V-Ray yesterday. Yes.
Very cool. But if you were to use a Gaussian splat from Polycam, you wouldn't be able, like at this time, the extension doesn't support import as
no,
a PLY.
not yet. No.
Okay.
I think you could download the PLY and then drag and drop it into SketchUp, and it should appear as a point cloud, but you wouldn't be able to use it as a Gaussian splat. And then the point clouds in a Gaussian splat, unfortunately, are not like the point clouds that come from a LiDAR scan, where they are accurate to real-world points in space. They're kind of just generated.
I was going to say you can try to convert it like a splat to a mesh in Blender or something, but it always just looks like you threw a blanket on something. It's just kind of like, whoa. Doesn't really know what it is.
Well, you can export your splat as a mesh on Polycam. So you wouldn't even have to bring that into Blender.
True.
I forgot about. We have so many capabilities. See that even I forget that you can do this all in Polycam.
But yeah, there is a specific look to it for sure.
Kitae, you had mentioned or you had shown us a way to visualize dimensions within SketchUp. Could you show that to us again?
Oh yeah, sure. So let's see. If I go back to the tools here, then we can go ahead and add dimensions here. So this will look for different points on your model, and then you'll be able to click them and then create a dimension in 3D space. So, let me just... Sometimes you have to rotate your view to be the correct orientation, but yeah, see, we have a pretty good dimension here of 10 feet, 9 1/8 inches. So then we can go ahead and start measuring other things inside of your model. Oops. This,
and
of
those
course,
measurements
works better with your space models, but yeah. What's your question?
Those measurements exist as objects in
yes, but these are
in 3D.
3D objects in the space.
Okay. And do they show up anywhere else, as in like some kind of list or something that can be printed out?
Yeah. So if you want to turn this into a drawing, then you'd have to go into the layout mode, which is right here. So layout, for those of you who are not aware, is kind of like the drawing, traditional 2D CAD UI of SketchUp. So that's where you'll go ahead and take your scenes from SketchUp here, and then be able to annotate them and mark them up like a real construction drawing, a CD. So that's where you can add these dimensions and flat orthographic views, be able to add hatches and fills and materials inside of the drawing that denotes materials, stuff like that. And then, but these drawings are, or these annotations, these dimensions rather, are kind of more just useful in 3D space than for those drawings.
Okay.
It's really interesting to see the mechanics of measuring here in SketchUp. Polycam also offers in-app measurements and uses a pretty handy like snapping method that makes it pretty easy to measure without doing too many clicks. And also there's like a slope capability too. So yeah, like there's just so many ways to combine both SketchUp and Polycam in varying workflows. Like Margaret alluded to earlier, re-uploading to Polycam, adding it to scenes to have like to set up the team for a more dynamic browser-based collaborative style. That's like one approach. Another thing that we hadn't explored is like using the 3D model generator that's available on all plans, including the free plan, to generate foliage, maybe traffic signs. As Craig pointed out, we need some organization around that church. It comes to
there's too much road.
managing that space. So like treating the model generator as almost like an asset pack opportunity, and then being able to re-upload it and share that dynamically in scenes.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah, but this is so cool.
It always seems like within 3D workflows, the aim is to try to get your ideas visual as quick as possible. And so it's really nice to be working within 3D right now and using tools like AI and these extensions. They just can really help accelerate things. Like I don't remember how long it used to take, to download and then import, but those minutes really add up.
Oh yeah. Actually, one of my favorite features for Polycam Web, I don't know if I can really show it here with a good example, but we already talked about this one, so let me show this one or something. I think I can do it here, is to measure in 3D. So of course there's like, just being able to measure your traditional line like you would in SketchUp or something like that. But something really great about Polycam I find is the pen measurement, where you can go ahead and start measuring things in 3D space. So for example, let me just dismiss this. If you are measuring something between rooms or walls or something like that, or between levels, then it becomes super easy to be able to, for example, plot out the length of a cable or pipe or something like that. So with this UI, you can go ahead and tell, oh, this is exactly how long of a cable we need to run, let's say, power from the generator in the basement to the upstairs living room den. So we know we need at least 76 feet of cable. So we'll go ahead and order 100. This can save people just a ton of time in being able to be on site, measure something out, get a whole basically 3D reference of how big that space is, and then be able to plot around that. So this would be a really great use case of sort of the digital twin of taking a virtual replica of a space and then being able to utilize it in new ways. Most contractors, they would realize, oh shit, we got to run a cable here. Go send someone back out there to go measure, right? But if they had just taken a 3D scan at the very beginning of a project, they probably could have saved themselves about 20% of their budget just in time and energy and billable hours that it takes to complete one of these projects.
Yeah, and within that scan in particular, you measured through walls, and so because you have this whole giant space captured, I could just imagine with a tape measure trying to measure this type of distance through different rooms would be, a lot of work.
What you'd have to do in real life to illustrate this point further is you'd have to go measure this 22 2-inch feet with a tape measure, then go measure this wall here, and then go ahead and assume that that's the same thickness from the either side of the walls, which we of course know when you build real things is never true, right? So this is a good way where you can get a pretty accurate layout of the space. Also, this area measurement tool is pretty interesting and good too. So let's say you have some non rectangular spaces you want to measure, right? This is a very simple way you can go ahead and get a whole area measurement or something like that. So if we go back to the pile of gravel example, right? You can go ahead and measure the area this gravel takes up, and then be able to probably do a basic calculation of like, how much material is actually here, right?
Yeah.
That's feedback we get a lot from some of our customers and power users, is that they're, saving themselves probably like 20% by using Polycam and being able to really accurately predict how much vinyl flooring they need and things like that. And there was a really nice note. I think I even said this in the last live stream. We were working with a construction company, and they told us there was like always sort of a level of like, like we probably will end up at a different number than we proposed we were going to be at. Like that's sort of like an accepted thing. And now with Polycam, they're like, nope, we're actually accurate within 5% of the measurements instead of 30% off on either way. Which is, it's so cool to watch you demo it live too, because these are the measurement tools are another, I think, kind of unknown feature for a lot of folks, or maybe just like underutilized. It's really cool to see like real world value to it.
I saw
Yeah, it is really cool. I have a couple of questions actually that came up, and feel free to answer whichever one is most interesting. How does the plugin handle mesh decimation? Does it optimize geometry on import or preserve full resolution scans?
It actually preserves full resolution scans, so you don't have to worry about there being inaccuracies from automated mesh decimation. That's mostly because people typically need higher quality meshes for measurements.
That makes sense. And do you know, I'm not very familiar with SketchUp, so I don't know, but are imported models triangulated or quads?
They should be triangulated. They don't. They should not be. Usually with photogrammetry, they come in as triangles, just because they can't guarantee quad topology. So it's almost definitely always triangles.
Mm-hmm. And a follow-up to that, thank you for your answers here, is how does the plugin deal with holes or overlapping faces? Do we build out a mechanism to address gaps, or is that more of the answer to fixing holes is creating a better scan in Polycam?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's that one where, garbage in, garbage out. So if somebody was moving too fast during their scan, or made some sort of error, like they're trying to scan through glass or something, then you will get those errors showing up in the model. So whatever is in your Polycam capture, that's how it's going to appear in SketchUp. It's one-to-one. So there won't be any lost fidelity. There won't be any recreation of holes or trying to fill in information. The extension just imports whatever's in Polycam. So if you go ahead and actually edit stuff in Polycam inside of the web editor, let's say you want to crop your mesh to not have certain parts to it, then that will also appear in SketchUp.
Yeah, that makes sense. Craig, I cut you off a little bit earlier. Did you want to jump in?
Oh, I would. As we were talking about, saving time using Polycam's measuring, I had noticed a user measuring shingles like wind damage and measuring the area to estimate how many shingles they would need to probably quote someone on the cost. And just thinking about that, like if someone can arrive on the site and not have to get up on the roof, that's like
true.
A huge thing. Eventually they'll go up on the roof, but you don't want to have unnecessary trips into potentially dangerous situations.
Or also ever be in the position where you're like, oh, it's actually going to be $500 more than I said it was going to be.
I mean, I would say in this scenario, it's more like it's going to be $50,000 more.
Yeah, probably.
You know, once we're getting to.
I've never built a house, so I'm like, how much can it really cost?
And we can just take even a simple. I think this is probably like a plot for a house, right? And you can see from here, we have a pretty good scan of this plot of land. So, you know, just in terms of insurance, we can understand where this property line begin and end with this fencing, and then be able to communicate to, let's say, a developer is buying this plot, like, hey, here's how much work you're going to have to do. There's like literally no foundation. There's all this debris here. We estimate it's going to cost, you know, $5,000 for us to remove about 4 tons of debris. And we can see here that it's a mixture of lumber and some brick and some concrete and some gravel. So this way we can, as a contractor, GC, or engineer, be able to give pretty good estimates to people of how much work needs to be done. And yeah, we didn't maybe even need to send out one of our employees. So for a scenario like this, it's totally plausible that you would hire like a surveying company who specializes in aerial drone capture. They go ahead and scan this site, take a whole bunch of photos, upload that to Polycam Cloud, be able to reconstruct the photogrammetry model right inside of Polycam without needing another software, and then be able to share this 3D model with that client and give them a very accurate and up-to-date and intuitive understanding of this site. And, you know, many times a client who wants to develop this land will probably never visit. You know what I mean? Like, there could be a developer out in Miami and this plot is in Sarasota, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's also really interesting to think about this process being flipped on its head in terms of, like, instead of starting with a spreadsheet of measurements, we're actually starting with like a visual, highly accurate, high fidelity visual capture, digital twin that can be distributed amongst the team. And then people can see it, receive it, get an idea of all the environmental factors, and then we can extrapolate that quantitative list type information after starting with that digital representation. I feel it's like very inclusive for all different types of folks involved in the project. But I think we're at time here today. Kitae, thank you so much for walking us through SketchUp. SketchUp is an incredible tool. It's like I'm learning as we go, and it's so exciting to see you use the Polycam extension to showcase all of its capabilities and show all of our listeners here today. There's a group still with us. Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.
How much time it shaves off in the process, how useful it can be in the context of AEC work in particular.
It's so amazing too, to, as somebody, like, I have no architecture experience really. I know some 3D programs, but they're always very overwhelming, and it's kind of like trying to learn a board game and you're just like, what did all my friends just say about Catan? Like, and it seemed like just using Polycam and SketchUp looks so easy. It's really, really incredible how user-friendly both products are, and how accurate you can be with a 2-minute scan. Super cool.
Yeah, and for those of you who are, you know, let's say even hunting for your next apartment, next time you go to a apartment showing or house showing or something like that, just scan it with Polycam. You can envision where all your furniture and, you know, all of your things will go, and kind of understand how big that space is for you.
Absolutely. Don't be shy. Get out the phone, get on the free tier, and just do one of these. Your friends will understand after the model's processed, and you can blow their minds.
It's true. I've been there.
Yeah. For more, stay tuned for the next live stream, everyone who's with us. That'll be happening 2 weeks from now. More information on that to come on the Reddit and the Discord. If you have questions about the SketchUp plugin extension, the SketchUp extension, ask on Reddit, ask on Discord. You can also get in touch with our customer support team, contact@polycam.ai. We're here to answer your questions and to learn with you. So please do be in touch. And
thank you, Kitae. Thank you so much.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
My pleasure.
amazing.
Fabulous having you. We got some compliments for Kitae from our internal Polycam Slack, so might have to have you on again. All right. Well, thanks everyone. We'll see you at the
All
next
right.
one.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.